Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. So, when I say the first level of a video game to you, hopefully what comes to mind are levels like 1-1 in Mario, or E1M1 in Doom. You know, stuff that instantly sticks out and that you remember the music of, you remember how to play, and you could probably play them blindfolded. And for the context of this episode, I want you to remember that I'm talking about just the first level. I'm not talking about a prologue, I'm not talking about the first level and a little bit after it. I'm just talking about that first sort of section where gameplay is really prominently used. So, if you were to think about Mass Effect is a good example of something I'm going to be talking about a lot. Not the first section where you're in the helm of the ship with Joker and Kaidan, and when you go and you talk to Dr. Chakwas, and then you meet with the other Spectre, Nihilus. I'm not talking about that at all. That is, to me, a sort of a pseudo-prologue. I'm talking about when you're on Eden Prime. That is Mass Effect's first level. And I'm going to be using a couple other different examples throughout this episode. Hopefully, when a person designs that first level, when they look at the mechanics they're going to end up integrating later on into the game, they look at how the game flows, when they look at how combat works, all that sort of stuff, hopefully they look at how that first level lays out and they realize that they're given a solid base for each of those mechanics. Last night I played Dead Space, the first chapter, the first level of Dead Space. And I recognize that that is a perfect example of what a first level, to me, is. I learned how to run, I learned how to shoot, I learned how to use stasis, I learned how to... that the game's going to feature a lot of puzzle solving in a weird sort of way that... it calls over this integrated rig system. I learned about upgrades, I learned about the store, I figured out, this is how you should ideally do combat, and you find out every single little thing you need to know about the game. And this should exist in every game. If your first level doesn't do such a good job, or even do at all, those couple things, relative to the game, of course, if it fails to explain that, then it's going to be difficult to justify sticking with that game, which is kind of an odd way to do it. But allow me to elaborate in the sense that I'm going to talk about another game that doesn't do it, but it works. I'm going to talk about Super Meat Boy. When you look at Super Meat Boy, it's a very simple game. You move, you jump, and you run, just like Mario. But the game evolves around you using those mechanics better to your skill. You run and you jump over saw blades and pits initially, but then as you progress through the game, you're running and jumping over collapsible blocks, you're dodging lasers, you're grabbing keys, and all of this stuff fits back into the core mechanics. And that makes sense. When you go back to Dead Space, you learn new weapons, you gain new weapons, you get new skills, and all that sort of stuff, but it still all relates back to, that you have sort of an aim mode and a non-aimed mode, in a weird sort of way. And let me cite Mass Effect. The first level of Mass Effect in Eden Prime, you figure out combat, you figure out how dialogue is going to work, you figure out how you can influence other characters, you see how looting works, you see how hacking works, and you figure out that there are stuff you're going to miss if you don't look for it. And that's consistent throughout Mass Effect, and as the game opens up more, you see that this becomes common and reoccurring. And if a developer doesn't get that first level just right, then that sort of loses me. I've tried to play Red Dead Redemption before, and I just can't stick with it. I don't know if I have the problem, but when I look at that map and I go, what do I do? Which seems kind of odd considering I've played a crap ton of Skyrim, and I've also played in a more related manner a lot of Saints Row. And you look at Saints Row and you look at Red Dead, they're sort of inspired by what Rockstar did with Grand Theft Auto, but whereas Red Redemption is Grand Theft Auto Western Edition, Saints Row sort of takes what Grand Theft Auto did and brought it down to sort of a more base and yet crazier level. which, now I think about it, doesn't make much sense, but who said it did, huh? Why am I pointing this out, though? It seems kind of pointless. Pointing out pointless. I'm smart. When I say that you can lose a player for a bad opening area, that will happen to you, and that sucks. Because I know that Red Dead's a good game. But if I can't stick with it, it's not so much that the game doesn't guide me by the hand, it's just that I can't find the hand. And to say that Saints Row guides you by the hand would be ludicrous, as you can very clearly just go and explore the city all you want. But it all depends on how your player reacts to that opening area. If you look at Fallout, you look at Vault 101, and what you do in there, and how that first level, as it were, occurs, you realize that you've been translated from this tight enclosed area to this open area, which sort of goes back into this whole you've been out of the vault and all this sort of like mental crap that deals with, you're a free person and it doesn't really matter in terms of this video. And open world games, like I said with Red Dead Redemption, can really fall flat if this first level concept doesn't feel right. But I hope that we as gamers can learn to appreciate those effective first levels and the groundworks that 1-1, Green Hill Zone, E1M1, that we can appreciate what those did for setting us up for these newer games with really big bombastic areas, but keeping it effective. I hope you can appreciate them, because I've long learned to appreciate my lineage of instructions in the beginning. I know it seems kind of weird that I talked about this. You say, why pick a first level? Because we should appreciate them. If we don't, we're kind of stupid, aren't we? Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I shall see every single one of you, probably never again in my life, but I shall see all of you